CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I was offered a job on the dark web, guarding a Cold War era bunker. The rule was clear: never open door number 4. Yo, what's up guys? I honestly never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. I'm not even sure where to post this, so I figured r/NOSLEEP would get it. It's been eating at me for months. I can't tell this to my friends. My family thinks I'm insane, and I've deleted everything that ever linked me to that damn place. But I need to get this off my chest. Maybe someone out there knows something. Okay, so for context, I'm 24. I live in Pennsylvania. Normal guy. I went to college for like 2 years, dropped out because I hated everything about it, and started freelancing to get by. You know, DoorDash, Postmates, a bit of freelance video editing for small YouTubers, whatever paid the bills. Life wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. Then one night around 2 a.m., classic me, Insomnia King, I was scrolling through TikTok and came across a video talking about the dark web. One of those horror accounts, right? The voiceover was like, never click on the black door listing, or else. Cringe. But it kinda got me curious. So I did what every totally sane person does at 2 a.m. with nothing better to do. I booted up Tor. Before you ask, no, I didn't go full hacker mode. I just used a VPN and some basic precautions I learned from Reddit and YouTube. I wasn't planning to buy anything illegal or whatever. I just wanted to see if the dark web was as creepy as people said. Spoiler, it is. I browsed some forums, found a few disturbing listings, won't go into detail, and was about to log off when I saw it. Security position, urgent, remote Cold War facility, $2,500 per week. Cash, no questions, rules must be followed. Something about it looked real. It wasn't flashy, no sketchy design, just plain white text on a black background with a gray apply button. For some reason, I clicked. Maybe it was the money. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I filled out a short form. Just name, age, physical fitness level, and a photo of myself holding today's date written on a piece of paper. No address, no phone number, no bank info. Weird, but not scam level weird. I submitted it. Forgot about it. 3 days later, I get an unmarked package in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a brand new prepaid phone. Still had the seal on it. A black key card with Bunker D4 etched on it. A GPS tracker device. And a handwritten note that said, "Congratulations. You've been accepted. Do not tell anyone. Arrive at the coordinates on Friday at 9 p.m. sharp. A car will pick you up. $2,500 per week. All cash. Rules will be given upon arrival." At this point, any sane person would have tossed the box, blocked the whole thing out, and gone back to delivering burritos. But I didn't, because I'm stupid and curious. Friday rolls around. I follow the GPS, and it leads me to a random Starbucks parking lot in rural Pennsylvania. Nothing else around for miles. Just woods and dead cell signal. No joke. It felt like I had walked straight into the opening scene of a horror movie. I was half expecting a serial killer to pop out from the bushes and be like, surprise, 9 p.m. sharp. A matte black SUV rolls into the parking lot. No plates. Windows tinted to hell. The passenger window rolls down. The guy inside is wearing a black baseball cap, black jacket, sunglasses, even though it's night. Like, bro, who are you? The Terminator? And he just says, "You Jones?" I nod, and he unlocks the door. No questions. Just a silent 2-hour drive into God knows where. We pass through a rusted gate that looked like it hadn't been touched since the Cold War. Big US military installation, no trespassing sign, all that creepy stuff. Eventually, we arrive at this underground bunker entrance in the middle of a forest. Legit looked like something out of Stranger Things. Concrete, steel doors, moss growing on the edges. The air was cold, even though it was August. The guy turns to me and hands me a printed paper. It just said, Bunker D4, Rules of Conduct. You are to stay in the security control room from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Do not leave this room unless instructed. You will monitor the door cams and motion sensors. There are 5 main access doors inside the bunker labeled 1 through 5. You are not to open any of them except door 2 if the red light blinks. Never, under any circumstances, open door number 4. Do not attempt to leave the bunker until your week is completed. You will be picked up. If you hear knocking on the control room window, do not respond. There should be no one else in the bunker. If you see yourself on the security feed, turn off the monitor immediately. I laughed nervously, like it was some kind of weird hazing joke, but the guy wasn't laughing. He just pointed at the heavy door and said, "Good luck." Then he left, drove off into the woods like it was nothing. I step inside. The door shut behind me with a thud that shook the walls. No handle on the inside, just steel. I was in. The control room wasn't high-tech or anything. A couple of monitors, an old desk, a microwave, mini fridge, a cot in the corner. It felt like someone had turned a Cold War panic room into a security booth. The cameras showed 5 doors in 5 separate hallways, each labeled. The only hallway that was lit up was the one with door 2. The rest, pitch black. There was also a motion tracker on the wall, like in Aliens, where it beeps if something moves. It was completely silent. That first night, not much happened. I just watched the monitors, ate some Hot Pockets, kind of vibed, but then around 3:13 a.m., the monitor for door 4 flickered. I looked. There was a person standing there, just standing, still, facing the camera, dressed just like me. Same hoodie, same messy hair, same face, same little scar I have on my lip from when I fell off a bike when I was 12. I stared, frozen. Then the camera cut to static. I turned off the monitor like the rule said. My hands were shaking. I swear to God, my heart was doing backflips. The rest of the night, I just sat there staring at the door. I didn't sleep. In the morning, all the lights came on and the steel door buzzed. A brown envelope slid in through the slot. Inside was $2,500 in cash, crisp bills, and a small note. Good job. 4 nights to go. And here's the messed up part. When I opened the fridge to grab a drink, there was a second can of Monster in there. I only brought 1. Alright, so if you're reading this, I'm guessing part 1 got to you. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you're already paranoid and looking over your shoulder. Maybe you think I'm lying. I wish I was. I really truly wish this was a story I made up at 3 a.m. for clout or Reddit karma. but I lived through it. And if you thought the first night was unsettling, that was nothing. Because what happened next, it wasn't just disturbing, it changed me. I haven't looked in a mirror the same way since. I barely sleep. I get chills hearing certain sounds, and I swear, sometimes I still hear the knocking, even now, months later. Let me walk you through night 2, 10:06 p.m. The sound. I was already paranoid going into the second night. I kept telling myself what I saw on the monitor had to be a hallucination, sleep deprivation. Maybe I was overthinking it, but the second I stepped into that control room again, it felt wrong. You ever feel like the air itself is watching you? Like the walls are breathing just slightly too loud? Yeah, that. So I sit down, do the usual check. Cameras are fine, motion sensor normal, doors sealed. I even brought my own food this time. Sandwiches, some Pringles, a protein bar. I wasn't touching anything in that bunker that wasn't mine. Not after that second can of Monster. I watched the monitors like last time. The camera for door 2 blinked red for a second, then calmed down. Just system diagnostics or something. I didn't care. Then, around 12:45 a.m., the silence broke. Knock. One soft knock. On the control room window behind me. Dead center. The window that should have been impossible to reach unless you were already inside the bunker. I froze. It was that kind of knock that feels intentional, polite, calculated. I turned. Slowly. There was nothing there. Just black gloss reflecting the dim emergency light behind me. But then, from the speaker attached to the motion system, I heard something that made my stomach twist. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more. Rhythmic. Precise. And this time, it was from door 4's hallway. The camera lit up without warning, just static for a second. And then, a different version of me appeared again. This time, closer. He was barefoot. Dirty. Like, really dirty. His skin was scraped raw around the knuckles and knees, and there were long red lines across his chest, like he had crawled for miles on gravel. But his face? Smiling. Not like a happy smile. More like someone trying to wear your smile, but not knowing how it works. His eyes were wide open, too wide, like someone had peeled the lids back and just left them that way. He leaned towards the camera slowly, agonizingly slow, until all I could see was his eye, staring straight into the lens. And then, in the faintest, scratchiest whisper I've ever heard, he said, "You opened it once already. You just don't remember." Then the feed cut to black. 1:02 a.m. The siren. All of a sudden, this old Cold War era siren went off somewhere deeper in the facility. It wasn't loud, just this eerie, low whine, like the ghost of an alarm system trying to scream through rusted lungs. It echoed through the bunker like something was waking up. I checked the motion sensor. No alerts. I checked the logs on the computer and saw something that should not have been there. A line of code had been added, not by me, not by any system I recognized, just a timestamp, 01:02:37. User, override, enabled. Door number 4, unlocked. I jumped up and literally backed into the corner of the room. The lights in the hall outside flickered for a second, and I swear I heard chains dragging across the floor beyond door 4's hallway. I don't know why, but I slammed the button on the wall that kills all monitors. Just instinct, I guess. Because if I had to watch what came out of that door, I don't think I'd still be here to write this. The bunker went dead silent again, but I felt it. There was something else in there with me. Something heavy. Something breathing wrong. 2:18 a.m. The VHS tape. About an hour later, I hear a whirring sound from behind the desk, like a motor starting up. I look down, and the floor panel behind the mini fridge is slightly popped open. It wasn't like that before. There's dust kicked up around the edges, like it had been disturbed. Inside was an old, dusty VHS tape. No label, just duct tape on it, with the word, watch. I didn't have a VHS player, obviously, but the control room had one built into the main monitor bank. I shouldn't have watched it. But, yeah, curiosity, dumbassery, call it what you want. I pop it in. The screen flickers. Then it plays footage of me, in the control room, but not from security cams. It's filmed from the corner of the room, like someone had set up a hidden camera I'd never noticed. The footage was from the night before. I'm watching myself eat the Hot Pocket, watching the monitors. Then I pause. On the tape, I slowly turn to look directly into the corner of the room, right where the camera is, and smile. Only, I never did that. Not that I remember. Then, in the tape, I walk over to door 4. I'm holding the key card. I swipe it. The door opens. Something dark, like not even fully human, reaches out, grabs my face, and the tape cuts to static. I yanked the tape out, snapped it in half, and threw it in the trash. My hands were shaking, like full-on trembling. I've never felt so out of control in my entire life. That's when I noticed it. There were fingerprints on the inside of the glass window, from the inside. 3:33 a.m. Something was inside. The motion sensor finally beeped. One blip. Not near any door, just outside the control room itself. I turned the monitors back on, one by one, hesitantly. All blank, except one. Cam 0X 92, unlabeled. Never seen it before. It was showing. Inside the control room, I could see myself, sitting there, watching the monitor, and right behind me, maybe 2 inches from the back of my head, was me. Or something wearing my skin. Its mouth was slightly open, unnaturally wide. Blood dried around the corners. Its eyes were pitch black, not glowing, just endless. Then it whispered again, "You brought it with you. You brought me back." The screen glitched. Then nothing. I turned so fast I almost fell out of the chair. But there was no one there. But the door, the heavy sealed steel door that had locked me in from the outside, was now slightly open, just a sliver, enough for someone, or something, to squeeze in. 4:44 a.m. Footage. Deleted. The next hour was just quiet. Like, way too quiet. I sat there with my back to the corner, holding the only thing that felt like a weapon, a rusted crowbar I found under the desk. Then the monitor flashed one more time. Just one sentence, in bold red font. Door 4 opened. Footage deleted. And then, right on cue, the lights came back on. The buzzer sounded. Another envelope slid under the door. $2,500 in fresh bills. And a Polaroid. It was a photo of me, sleeping, on the cot in the corner. But here's the thing. I never fell asleep. Let me know if you really want more. Because the worst part, it wasn't what was in the bunker. It's what followed me out. The third night was the one that broke me. People always ask, what moment made you snap? What moment made you realize the world isn't what you think it is? That reality isn't some concrete, stable thing, but a thin sheet of glass waiting to shatter. For me, it was that night. Not because of the knocking, not because of the whispering, Not even because of the thing in the hallway, but because that was the night I finally understood why the rules said never open door number 4. And more importantly, why they had to write that rule at all, because someone already did. 9:41 p.m. The scratching. When I arrived, I noticed something immediately. The outside of the steel door was streaked with something black. Not paint. Charcoal? Number. It had a smell. A sharp, sour, metallic stink. Like burnt hair and copper pennies. I swiped in, entered the control room, and locked the door behind me. Like always. Everything looked the same. Except this time, the air felt heavier. Not metaphorically. Literally. Like I was deeper underground than before. Like the air itself didn't want to be breathed in. As soon as the clock ticked over to 10 p.m., the sound began. Scratch. Just once. Right above me. Coming from the ceiling vents. I looked up. Nothing. 10 seconds passed. Scratch. 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 Longer this time. Like nails dragging across metal. It started moving. Slowly. Across the ceiling. From one vent to the next. It circled the control room 3 times. I stood there, frozen, just tracking it with my eyes. And then I heard it stop directly above the cot. The ceiling vent cover was vibrating slightly. Then, a breath. Right above it. Inhales. Slow. Deep. Wet. I backed away, almost tripping over the chair. I didn't sleep that night. 12:17 a.m. The photo album. I decided to search the room again, more thoroughly this time. I knew something was off. Behind the cot, in the wall paneling, I found a gap, like someone had removed part of the wall and wedged something inside. I pulled it out. It was a small black leather photo album, old, cracked, smelled like mildew and something else, something rotting. Inside were about 24 Polaroids, no labels, just dates and timestamps, and every single photo was of someone sleeping. Different people, different rooms, always alone, all from the same bunker, or bunkers just like it. But the last few photos were of me, sleeping in the cot, one per night, like someone was watching me, documenting me. But the final photo, that one was different. It showed the cot from a distance, from high up, like from inside the ceiling vent. And just above the cot, hanging upside down, arms wrapped around the vent slats, was a thing, a humanoid shape, pale, contorted, bent at unnatural angles. Its face, it looked like me, except melted, like someone had tried to recreate my face from memory, but forgot how skin is supposed to work. The photo was warm, still warm, like it had just been developed. 1:39 a.m. Door 1. Unlocked. The alarm buzzed once. A dull, metallic tone. And the monitor for door 1 lit up. I ran to the console. The log said, "Unauthorized access. Door 1 opened from inside." From inside. Door 1 had never even flickered before. It was supposed to be completely sealed. The camera feed was grainy, dusty, but it showed the hallway beyond door 1. Long, narrow, dimly lit by old flickering lights, and at the end of it, something was crawling, not walking, crawling, fast, jerky, inhumanly fast. The limbs were too long, the joints bent the wrong way, and the head lolled side to side like it was too heavy for its neck. Then the camera cut to static, and a low, gurgling sound came from the speaker, not even human, like a voice underwater. Then a single word. Feed. All the monitors blacked out, except door 4. It was wide open. 2:03 a.m. Inside door 4, I know. I was told never to open it, but it was already open. This wasn't my choice. This wasn't me disobeying orders. This was whatever was down there deciding it was ready. I should have stayed in the control room, but I didn't. Because sometimes curiosity doesn't feel like a decision, it feels like a command. The hallway behind door 4 was soaked in water. Not fresh, not clean, stale, murky. The walls were lined with moss, and the floor was slick. The smell was unbearable, like something had been rotting for years. At the end of the hallway was a spiral staircase, going straight down, carved into concrete. No lights, just darkness. I don't know why I descended. I had the flashlight. I had the crowbar. But none of that made me feel safe. The deeper I went, the more the air changed. It was hot now. Not bunker heat. Furnace heat. Humid. Alive. Like I was inside something's throat. At the bottom, there was a chamber. Circular. Covered in handprints. Dozens. Hundreds. All different sizes. Some huge. Some childlike. Some with claws. And in the center, a metal operating table. Chains. A mirror bolted to the wall, but shattered. And something else. Something that looked like a person, but wasn't. It was strapped to the table, and it was wearing my face. Except this time, the eyes opened, and it screamed. Not a human scream, a layered scream, like dozens of voices screaming through each other, like it was screaming in reverse. I blacked out. 3:07 a.m. Waking up. I woke up in the control room. The cot was wet. The floor was soaked. My hands were covered in blood. Not mine. There was a nail. Yes, a human nail, lodged in my forearm. Like something tried to grab me and dig its hand into my skin to pull me under. The monitors were back on. Door 4 was closed. And on the main screen, just a message. Door 4. Breach contained. Subject returned. 2 nights remain. I checked the trash can. The broken VHS tape. It was gone. But something was left behind. A set of teeth. Human. Yellowed. All neatly stacked. Like a dentist had organized them. With a tiny note underneath that said, "Try smiling more." 6 a.m. Pickup. The door unlocked right on time. Another envelope slid in. Another $2,500. Another photo. This time, it wasn't of me. It was of my mom's house, her front porch. But standing at the door in the photo was me. Except I was smiling way too wide. But if you've read this far, I'll give you a warning. If someone offers you a job on the dark web, don't read the rules. Just walk away. Because once you know the rules, they know you. 4th night. By now, I wasn't even scared the way I had been. I was something else entirely. You ever feel like your body's awake, but your brain's watching it from somewhere outside? Like you're in control, but also not? That was me. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating much. I didn't trust anything I saw or heard. I even stopped using the mini fridge because twice now, something had placed items I did not bring inside it. One night, it was a warm can of Monster that pulsed when I touched it. Another night, it was a piece of raw meat shaped like a human ear, wrapped in tinfoil, still leaking. And worst of all, the air vents were whistling my name when I sat alone. 9:53 p.m. The call. 7 minutes before shift started. The prepaid phone they gave me on the first day. The one I'd kept wrapped in a sock and stuffed in the farthest drawer. Buzzed once. Unknown caller. It was the first time it had rung. I almost didn't answer it. I really should have let it ring. But like everything else in that bunker, my curiosity was a disease. I picked up. Static. Then a click. And a voice. But not mine. My mother's. "Honey? Honey? Are you there? Something's wrong. There's a man outside. He looks just like you. He won't leave. He keeps smiling. He keeps knocking. My blood turned to ice. I pressed the phone closer to my ear. He said, "You left the door open. He said you forgot something. Why does he have your eyes?" The voice broke off into ragged sobs, then into static. And just before the call dropped, I heard my own voice say, "Tell him I'm home now." The phone shut off. Dead battery. Except the battery was still at 90%. 10:15 p.m. The corridor changed. This night, the control room was different. I swear on everything, it wasn't built the same. I know how that sounds, but I'd spent 3 nights in there, memorizing every inch of it. Every bolt, every crack, every flickering light. Tonight, the wall to the left of the monitor bank had an extra door. Plain gray steel. No handle. Just a peephole. Not labeled. No camera feed. No log entry. Just there. Like it had always been. I leaned into the peephole, and at first, all I saw was pitch black. Then my own eye reflected back at me. Only, it wasn't mine. The iris was wrong. Mine's brown. This one was milky white, with a single red-black vein running through the center. It blinked. I didn't. Then I heard something whisper on the other side of the door, like dry leaves scraping together in a human throat. "You're not real anymore." The peephole went dark. The wall shook once. The door was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been there. 11:40 p.m. The mirror test. I needed to know if I was still me. After the phone call, after the thing in the hallway that wore my face, I had to make sure. I grabbed the mirror I'd found in the utility drawer. Small, square, old school, like one from a makeup kit. I looked into it. At first, everything seemed normal. My eyes, my scar, my tired, cracked lips. Then my reflection smiled. I didn't. It raised its hand, pressed its palm to the mirror, still smiling, like it was proud of something I hadn't done yet. I dropped the mirror. It shattered into 5 clean pieces. Each shard reflected a different expression of me. One crying, one screaming, one smiling, one rotting, one staring directly behind me. I turned around. The cot was upside down, folded in half like a broken insect. Something was underneath it, breathing wet, raspy breaths, like a gurgling lung trying to inflate. I backed against the monitors and pulled the crowbar close. Whatever was under there didn't move, but it whispered, "You already opened the door. You let us out. We just haven't finished becoming you yet." 12:06 a.m. The hallway. The motion detector lit up, not in any of the normal places. It was coming from inside the air vents. I flicked the camera feed to vent crawl space. Yeah, that's a real setting in this place. Why? Because apparently this facility was designed with vent activity in mind. Feed came up, black and white, night vision, and I saw something crawling through the ductwork. It moved like a lizard, on its belly, long arms, knees bent the wrong way, skin the texture of moldy rice. It stopped every few feet to look back at the camera, like it knew it was being watched. Then it did something I still can't explain. It pulled its own face off, like a mask. Underneath, my face, except it was sewn shut across the mouth. Dozens of tiny black stitches. It reached toward the camera, and the feed cut to static. A moment later, something fell through the ceiling vent in the corner of the room with a wet splatter. It was a tongue, human, still twitching, wrapped in a rubber band, and attached to the rubber band was a torn piece of paper. Try speaking now. 1:44 a.m. The imitator appears. The lights in the bunker shut off. All of them. Then emergency red lights flicked on, the kind that pulse like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The speakers began to broadcast a sound loop. It was me, but it was me screaming, over and over and over, until it suddenly cut off mid-breath. That's when I noticed the monitor showing cam 00. Maintenance access was on. There was a person standing just outside the control room, dressed in my clothes. Same body, same walk, same face, except it wasn't blinking. It tilted its head slowly, like a curious dog. Then it pulled something from behind its back, a crowbar, just like mine. It lifted it up and pointed at the camera, held it there. Then calmly, it began scraping the metal bar across its teeth until blood started pouring from its gums, still staring directly into the lens. And it whispered, but the sound came from behind me in the control room. Only one of us gets to leave. 3:03 a.m., the mirror room. That new unlabeled camera feed came on again, but now it was titled Imitation Chamber. The footage showed a room I hadn't seen before. Thousands, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of mannequins, all wearing clothes, all standing still. Their faces were blurry, like they were in the middle of transforming, like someone had pressed copy but never hit paste. In the center of the room was a full-length mirror with a man strapped to it, naked, bleeding, and every few seconds a different version of his face would reflect back. Some were deformed, some were beautiful, some had no eyes. He looked directly into the mirror, then screamed, "I don't remember what I looked like. I don't remember what I looked like." Then the mirror cracked, and all the mannequins turned their heads at once, directly into the camera, and whispered, "You're next." 5:58 a.m. Final note. I passed out at some point. Not sleep, just blackout. Trauma, maybe. Exhaustion. Madness. I woke up with the crowbar still in my hands. My fingers fused to it. Skin blistered and melted around the handle like it had grown into me. The door buzzed. The envelope slid in. Same money, but no photo this time. Just a note. Burned around the edges. Last night, tomorrow. If the other one speaks to you, don't answer. It's almost strong enough to lie. I looked at the wall where the mirror used to hang. It was covered in teeth marks. Some mine, some not. The fifth night wasn't a night. It was an autopsy of everything I thought I was, of my body, my sanity, my name. The fourth envelope had told me not to speak to the other one. But when someone wears your skin better than you do, when they breathe with your mother's breath, when their heartbeat sinks to yours until you can't tell who's copying who, silence doesn't save you. Silence just lets them speak first. And once it speaks, you start to wonder if maybe it was always you. 9:59 p.m. The blood on the walls. Before the shift even started, the walls began bleeding. Not a metaphor. I walked into the control room, and the walls were oozing this dark, syrupy red fluid that smelled like pennies soaked in ammonia and bile. It wasn't from cracks or seams. The entire surface was sweating blood like it was alive. And in the middle of one wall, carved in jagged, erratic scratches like someone used their own fingernails, were 5 words. "You are almost finished." I dropped my bag and checked the motion sensor. Nothing yet. I switched on the monitors. All 5 doors sealed. All clear. But there was a new camera feed. No number, no label. Just an icon. A red eye. I clicked it. 10:10 p.m. The room that shouldn't exist. The feed loaded slowly, like it was buffering a memory I'd forgotten. It showed a room that couldn't possibly exist in the bunker. Too large, too tall. There were rows of cots, dozens of them, and lying on each cot was a version of me, all asleep. They weren't peaceful. One had no lips. One was missing its entire lower body, but its eyes still twitched beneath swollen lids. One was mouthing something silently, repeating it over and over. When I turned up the feed audio, I heard it. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me. The voice wasn't mine. It was feminine. Software. Mocking. Then, on one of the cots, one of the versions of me sat up, looked directly at the camera, and said, "He's already on the way." The feed cut. The room began to vibrate, like something was stomping miles beneath me. 11:22 p.m. The other me entered. I didn't see it arrive. It didn't trip the senses. It didn't knock. The steel door to the control room just opened. Quiet. Clean. No sound. And standing there, in full silhouette, was the other me. But this time, it wasn't wearing my clothes. It was wearing my skin. All of it. Down to the scar on my lip, the uneven freckle pattern on my shoulder, the crack in my left toenail. I only knew it wasn't me because its face didn't breathe. No micro expressions, no blinking. Just a still, perfect mask. It stepped inside. I backed into the corner, crowbar clenched so tight I couldn't feel my fingers. It raised one hand, not threatening, like it wanted to talk, and for the first time, it spoke. "You did well. I was watching. I've always been watching. That's what I am. The watcher, the waiting, the one that copies. And when you looked inside yourself, when you broke the mirror, you invited me in. I didn't speak. It moved closer. With every step, I felt something inside me ache, like organs tugging in the wrong direction, like bones trying to escape through skin. It touched the desk, left behind a perfect bloody handprint. It looked at me again. They made me to replace threats during the war. Perfect infiltration. I am what happens when identity is copied too many times. And now, you are the final draft. 12:07 a.m. The feed reversed. All the monitors switched to a new feed. They showed me, right now, sitting in the corner, watching, and then they began playing backwards. Night 4, Night 3, Night 2, Night 1. But they didn't show what I remembered. They showed me unlocking door number 4. Every night, willingly, smiling. They showed me cutting the tongue out of someone else and stuffing it into my own mouth. They showed me replacing my own eyes. They showed me watching my original body die, slowly, on a table, and laughing. I turned off the monitors. Too late. The other me was standing right in front of me now. It leaned in and whispered, "There is no you. There's only what's left after we're done." 2:22 a.m. The realization. The power shut off. Total darkness. And then, voices from inside the walls. Hundreds of them. All me. All whispering different versions of the same sentence. I let it in. We let it in. I let me in. You let it in. We are already in. And then, a sound I cannot describe. It was like something was trying to force itself out of my spine. Like a second skeleton growing inside me, pushing outward, trying to split me apart from within. My skin began to ripple. My hands moved on their own. I dropped the crowbar and screamed, but the scream came from outside my mouth. Someone else screamed through me. My mouth just hung open. 4 a.m. The end of the shift. The lights flickered on. Everything normal. The control room spotless. Crowbar back on the table. Cot neatly folded. I stood there, shaking, drenched in sweat and blood and whatever else was leaking from me. Then the phone buzzed. The prepaid one. It lit up. Caller ID. Me. I didn't answer. It buzzed again, and again, and again, so I smashed it, and that's when I realized there was no envelope this time, no money, no keycard, no way out. 6 a.m., no one came. The steel door didn't buzz, no car pulled up outside, no man in black with sunglasses. The hallway monitors showed nothing but concrete and silence. I waited. Hours. Eventually I tried to open the door manually. No use. It had sealed from the outside, and written in dust across the inside of the glass, in my own handwriting, were 4 words. You live here now. Final log. The one who got out. That was 6 months ago. I never left the bunker, but someone did. Someone wearing my face. He posts on my Instagram, uses my Spotify, watches my TikToks. He even texted my mom on my birthday. She said, "You seem different, but happy." Every time I try to sleep, the walls whisper my own name back at me, like they're forgetting it, or rewriting it. Sometimes I look in the mirror, and my reflection doesn't match what I'm doing anymore. It smiles when I cry. It cries when I sleep. Last night, it looked at me and said, "Only one of us was ever real. I'm not sure if I'm the copy anymore. I don't even know if I ever was the original." I paid a hacker to look into unsolved murders near me. He sent me one photo of myself sleeping. So, I've never posted on Reddit before. I usually just lurk, read creepy threads on r/NOSLEEP, and tell myself it's all made up. But something happened to me last month. Something that still keeps me up at night. And I need to get it off my chest. Before anything, no, I'm not making this up. I know everyone says that, but I swear this is real. Or at least, as real as my messed up mind can process it now. Let me start from the beginning. I live in a pretty average apartment in Chicago, near the Logan Square area. I work remotely as a freelance graphic designer, which basically means I spend most of my time staring at a screen in sweatpants, drinking iced coffee, and falling down YouTube rabbit holes when I'm supposed to be working. A couple of months ago, I stumbled across a channel called Here's My Story. Y'all probably know it. It's those animated horror confessionals where people share creepy stuff that happened to them, like stalkers, haunted houses, doppelgangers, etc. One night, I binge-watched like 10 of them back to back while it stormed outside. Stupid, I know. And I started thinking, what if something like that happened to me? That's when I started getting obsessed with unsolved local crimes. I found this subforum dedicated to Chicago cold cases. Most of them were tragic, but relatively tame. Missing persons, suspected accidents, that kind of thing. But then I found this thread about a string of unresolved murders dating back almost a decade. The weird part? They were all within a 5-mile radius of where I live. The victims didn't seem connected. Different ages, different genders, different backgrounds. But all of them had one thing in common. The night they were last seen, they had posted something online. Usually something mundane, like a tweet about getting food, or a photo on Instagram of a Starbucks cup, or a random video on TikTok from their bedroom, and then, poof, gone. Days later, their bodies would turn up in strange locations. One in a closed-down Sears parking lot, another in a hotel dumpster, one even in a porta potty outside a Lollapalooza venue. Brutal stuff, but never graphic in public. Always just barely within the limits of plausible deniability. That's where my brain clicked into full true crime mode. I started making a Google map of the murder sites, timestamps, lost online activity. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe some kind of pattern or clue that the police had missed. But I got nowhere. It just felt like there were too many missing pieces and too many coincidences to be random. So I did something really stupid. I went to the deep web. Now, I'm not talking about the random Tor browser surfing people do for fun. I mean, I sought out a legit dark web hacker, like the kind of person you're not supposed to talk to unless you want your bank account drained or your identity stolen. I'd seen this username, nullspeak, mentioned in a thread on some shady forum I found through Reddit. People were saying he could find literally anything: long-lost files, government records, deleted content, even surveillance footage, stuff you'd assume was locked behind 1,000 firewalls. I messaged him through this encrypted chat tool someone on 4chan recommended. At first, no response. Then, 3 days later, I got a message. 500 USDT. Send the names, the dates, and what you're looking for. Honestly, I should have noped out of there right then, but I was too far in. I sent him the info on the 5 unsolved murders that took place within 5 miles of my apartment. I asked him to look for anything that connected them. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every little creak in my apartment felt louder than usual. Even my cat, Beans, wouldn't stop staring at the window like she was watching something move outside. Around 3 a.m., I finally passed out on the couch with YouTube autoplay running some dumb Mr. Beast video. When I woke up the next morning, I had a new message. Just a single file. Photo043.jpg. My stomach dropped. The thumbnail was black, but I clicked it. It was a picture of me, sleeping. The photo was taken from the corner of my room. I recognized the layout, the slanted ceiling, the cracked closet mirror, even my hoodie on the chair by my desk. It was definitely my room. And there I was, in bed, knocked out, mouth half open, completely unaware. Worse, the photo was timestamped. 2:39 a.m. last night. The human brain does this weird thing when it's overloaded with fear. It tries to rationalize the irrational. That's what I did for the first 10 minutes after opening that photo. Maybe I took it myself and forgot. Maybe it's AI generated, like those fake images with distorted hands and 6 fingers. Maybe it's just a sick joke from the hacker, a prank to spook me. Maybe it's not even me. But the longer I stared at it, the more undeniable it became. It was me. My phone next to my pillow. The blanket twisted the way it always does when I sleep. Beans curled up at the foot of the bed, half awake. Even the half-empty Diet Coke can on my nightstand, lit perfectly by the red glow from the LED strip behind my TV. It wasn't just real, it was recent. I was being watched, and whoever took that photo had been in my room while I was asleep. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move. I just stared at the photo while this cold, wet feeling crawled up my spine like someone had dumped ice water straight into my nervous system. My first instinct was to check the front door. Still locked. Deadbolt too. I ran to the back window. It was latched from the inside. Every window secured. I don't even live on the ground floor. I'm on the second level of a walk-up with a locked gate. The place was untouched, except I noticed something I hadn't seen before. In the photo, next to my bed, there was a small glint, like a reflection. It was easy to miss. I looked at the same spot in real life. There was nothing there. That's when I realized, whatever that object was, it was gone now. Something had been placed there during the photo, then taken afterward. I started tearing the place apart, flipping couch cushions, opening drawers, even pulling clothes out of my closet, thinking maybe someone hid a camera, a microphone, anything. Then I noticed something. My sock drawer had 5 socks missing. Exactly 5. That sounds dumb, right? But I always roll them in pairs, and I'm super OCD about it. They were just gone. No pair, no loose ones, nothing in the laundry basket. That's when I realized someone had been in here longer than just last night. It wasn't a break-in, it was a breakthrough. Like someone had been watching me for days, maybe weeks, slowly removing things, adjusting the environment. I checked my Ring camera app. Nothing. Not even an alert. Either they avoided it, or they disabled it. I was ready to call the cops, but what would I even say? Hey, someone took a picture of me sleeping, but everything is locked, and the only proof I have is from a hacker I met on the dark web. Yeah, that's how you end up on a 72-hour psych hold. So I messaged Nullspeak again. All I said was, "What the fuck is this?" He replied instantly, like he was waiting. "Look closer." He's always near the victims first. I sat there staring at those words. He's always near the victims first. It wasn't just about the photo. It was a pattern. Whoever this was, he didn't just kill. He stalked. He blended. He got so close, you thought he was just another face in the crowd. A few hours passed. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in my living room with a kitchen knife in one hand and my phone flashlight in the other, like some budget horror movie protagonist. Around 3 a.m., again, I heard a click from the hallway. Not from inside my apartment. Outside. On the other side of the front door. A slow, soft, mechanical click, like a key turning. Then nothing. I stood frozen for like 2 minutes, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. Then came the knock. 4 slow taps. I didn't move. Another knock. Same rhythm. 4 taps. Then silence. I crept over to the door and looked through the peephole. No one. Absolutely no one. I turned off every light, sat in the dark, and waited until the sun came up. When morning came, I bolted down to the building's front entrance. Our place has one of those old metal lockboxes with numbered keypads that holds the front gate key. I opened it. The key was gone. Someone had taken it, and there was something in its place. A sock. One of the 5 missing ones, rolled up neatly. Inside was a folded slip of paper, printed out on thick cardstock, like some twisted party invitation. It read, "You're number 6. Do not speak his name. The cameras see, but they do not tell. He lives where you sleep." After that, I lost it. I packed a duffel bag, grabbed beans, and booked an Airbnb in Milwaukee for a few days. Figured a little distance would help clear my head. Nope. First night there, I went to a nearby McDonald's to grab something greasy to stress eat. I ordered through the app, didn't even go inside. When I pulled up to the drive-through window, the girl looked confused and said, "Oh, you already came through like 10 minutes ago. The guy had your order and everything." I laughed, confused, and said, "Nah, I just got here." She held up a receipt. My name, my order, printed 10 minutes before I arrived. Someone had used my account. They had my data, my location, my entire life. I changed my passwords, factory reset everything, even ditched my SIM card and switched devices. Thought it was over, until the next night, when I received another message from Nullspeak. No text this time, just a video. It was 37 seconds long. The first 10 seconds were black, just muffled breathing. Then the camera pans, and I swear to you, I swear on everything I love, it's a night vision recording of me at the Airbnb, sleeping, same setup, different bed, but the camera wasn't still. It was handheld. Whoever was filming was standing next to me, breathing heavy, like they were barely keeping it together. At the very end, the camera turned slightly and caught a reflection in the Airbnb's TV screen. A face. Or something like a face. But it didn't look human. It looked like it was wearing a face. Too tight, too pale, like latex stretched over muscle. And the eyes. They were smiling. I didn't go back to Chicago. I couldn't. Not after the McDonald's incident. Not after the Airbnb video. And definitely not after seeing that reflection. That thing wearing a face that looked like mine if you microwaved it for too long and stretched it over someone else's skull. I booked another Airbnb, this time completely off the grid, cash only. It was some run-down log cabin in northern Wisconsin, about 2 hours from civilization, surrounded by forest and barely functional Wi-Fi. The owner had one eye and smelled like gasoline, and I trusted him more than anyone else alive. I thought I'd be safe up there. I was wrong. The cabin had no mirrors, not a single one. Not in the bathroom, not above the sink, not even in the broken medicine cabinet that hung open like a crooked mouth. The glass had been ripped out, not removed. Ripped. Jagged edges still stuck to the frame, like teeth. There were scratches on the wall, long and narrow, some up high, as if someone taller than any normal person had dragged their fingernails across the drywall, or claws. But the creepiest part, there were symbols carved into the underside of the bed frame, a full ring of them, like protection marks. But they weren't in any language I recognized. They looked like distorted QR codes, all black boxy lines and bleeding squares. I sent a photo of them to Nullspeak. He answered almost immediately. Don't scan them, not even through an image search. He listens through code. That was all he said. Just, he listens through code. I didn't know what that meant, but I deleted the image instantly. I stayed up all night again, clutching a hammer I found in a drawer and constantly checking every window. The forest outside was too quiet. No bugs, no wind, just dead air and the occasional creak of the cabin, which sounded less like wood expanding and more like someone walking just above me in the attic I couldn't access. And then I got a ping from an encrypted folder I'd set up, something only Nullspeak and I had access to. A zip file titled No Pattern Found 231.zip. I opened it like a moron. Inside were 53 photos, all screenshots, all from surveillance footage, some grainy, some crystal clear. Every single one featured me, getting coffee, waiting for the train, sitting in front of my laptop, ordering a burrito bowl at Chipotle, sitting in the waiting room at the dentist, scrolling on Instagram in a Starbucks. I wasn't looking at the camera in a single one, but in every single photo, somewhere in the background, was him, blurred, shadowed, always just out of focus, sometimes wearing a hoodie, sometimes a trench coat. Once, he wore a plague doctor mask, like it was a fucking joke, but always there. I was being shadowed for months, maybe years. Then I saw the final photo. It was taken in my apartment. Not of me, though. It was a shot of my front door, from the inside, like someone had stood in my living room and taken a photo of the door as I was unlocking it. I couldn't breathe. I was being watched from inside my home, long before any of this started. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just about some psychotic stalker or a deep web hitman. This was a ritual. I went back to the first 5 murders, the ones I originally hired Nullspeak to investigate. I started digging through the backlogs, forums, anything that wasn't police report official. I even paid a guy in Belarus to find deleted footage from old traffic cameras. That's when I noticed the building, a tall, windowless gray building that showed up in the backgrounds of 3 different crime scenes. One behind the closed Sears parking lot where the second body was found. Another at the edge of the Lollapalooza Porta Potty murder. And the third in the reflection of a broken car window near the hotel dumpster. It was always the same building. No name, no signs, no windows. I spent days looking for it. Google Maps turned up nothing. It was like the building didn't exist. Except in the footage, it was always there, watching. I finally tracked down a guy on Reddit, goes by NeonGuts93, who said he was an urban explorer in the Midwest and had seen the building with no name. He sent me GPS coordinates. I shouldn't have gone. I drove 6 hours in silence, barely blinking, barely eating, my hands shaking the entire time. When I got close, the GPS freaked out. My screen glitched and froze, but the location was already burned into my brain. I parked near an abandoned lot filled with rusted cars and broken shopping carts. The air smelled like burnt rubber and something wet, like old meat left to rot in the sun. And there it was, the building, massive, monolithic, featureless, like a tombstone built for a god nobody worships anymore. No door, no windows, no signs, just a cold, matte gray surface and a single camera pointing down at the empty lot. I don't know what possessed me, but I walked toward it. As I got closer, I saw something on the wall, barely visible, a symbol scratched into the concrete with what looked like fingernails, the same distorted QR pattern from the cabin. I reached out to touch it, and my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no caller ID. I answered, heavy breathing, then a voice, but not just one. Many, dozens, maybe hundreds, all speaking at once. They said, "You are not the first to ask. You will not be the last to scream. He's not watching you. You are watching yourself through his eyes." The call cut off. Then the wall in front of me clicked, not visibly, but audibly. A sharp, metallic sound, like a bolt unlocking. A door opened, just a crack, and from inside, I swear to God, I heard something dragging itself across the floor. Slow, wet, heavy, then whispering. Not in English, not in any language I've ever heard. It sounded like a voice trying to imitate language, trying to learn how to speak by copying. I turned and ran so fast, I don't remember getting back to the car. I just remember starting the engine and screaming until I blacked out behind the wheel. When I woke up, I was back in the cabin. No memory of the drive. Just a message on my phone from Nullspeak. "You opened it. Now it won't stop. You're not 6 anymore. You're him." There's certain places you walk into where your body just knows something is wrong before your brain catches up. Like stepping into a room where someone just died, or walking through the woods and realizing, too late, you're being watched. Or entering a mirror maze at a county fair and feeling the air shift like it's breathing with you. That's where I ended up after everything with the building, after the phone call, after the dragging sounds, after my body teleported itself back to that nightmare cabin with no memory of driving. I don't know why I went. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe something pulled me there. Maybe the part of me that still thought this could be explained, rationalized, was dying to hold on to something normal. A fair, rides, food stands, screaming kids, laughter. It was a small traveling setup, the kind that hops around small towns. I found it on Facebook Marketplace, of all places, while searching for burner phones. A flyer popped up in my feed. Moonlight Festival, one night only, in a town I had never heard of, just south of the Wisconsin border. Something about the flyer looked off, like it was glitched. The letters weren't scented, and there was a tiny black square in the bottom corner that almost looked like a QR code, but when I zoomed in, it blurred out. The caption read, "Come see yourself." I drove there without thinking, like I wasn't behind the wheel. The town barely existed. No hotels, no gas stations, no lights. Just the fair in a field of dead grass, a few trailers, and a long dirt road that led to nothing. And there it was, the Mirror Maze. No fancy branding, no funhouse music. Just a tall, rectangular black tent with a hand-painted wooden sign out front that read, "Faces that don't look back." There were no lines, no staff, no one even near it. Just open, like it had been waiting. I stepped inside. The second I passed through the curtain, I couldn't hear the fair anymore. No music, no kids, no smells, just silence. Thick, metallic silence, like breathing inside a locked freezer. And I was alone. Every surface was mirror, not the clean carnival kind. These were old, dusty, cracked in places, smudged like they'd been handled by greasy hands. Some had fog on the inside of the glass, like something had breathed on them from behind. At first, I only saw myself, but not in the normal way. My reflection didn't sync with me exactly. It blinked too slow. It tilted its head just a few degrees more than I did. Sometimes it didn't move at all when I did. At one point, I stopped walking, and my reflection kept walking, just a few steps. Then it paused and smiled at me, a smile I didn't make. I turned around, fast, nothing behind me, just more mirror, more me. But now, there were more versions of me, some in different clothes. One had no eyes, just black holes that leaked something thick and glossy, like motor oil. Another wore a shirt I haven't owned in 10 years. And one looked exactly like me right now, but older. Skin sagging, eyes sunken, mouth stretched into a horrible permanent O, like it had been screaming for years. Then the lights flickered. I heard a sound, like glass cracking underwater. Then a whisper, not from any direction I could trace, from inside the mirrors. Not all of you left the building. The mirrors began to shift. Physically, the walls moved, on their own, rearranging like a Rubik's Cube around me. Every corridor folded and twisted with a sick shkt sound, like metal being dragged across tile. Suddenly, there were reflections I didn't recognize, faces I'd never seen, people I'd never been, all screaming, their mouths pressed against the mirror like they were trying to get out, banging their fists. Some had nails missing. One had fingers folded backwards, knuckles bleeding, and every single one was looking at me. I ran, but you can't run in a maze made of you. Every turn showed more broken versions of myself. Some were hanging, others lying in pools of blood, twitching. One was burned head to toe, skin bubbling against the glass. Another had his jaw missing, tongue dangling, pointing at me like I was the next to go. The reflections started moving on their own, not copying me, not imitating, living, breathing, smiling. I slammed into a mirror, and it gave, like it was made of flesh. It pulsed where I touched it, and something on the other side pressed back. A hand. Long fingers. Wrong fingers. Too many knuckles. Nails that curved backwards. Then the lights died. Complete black. The kind of dark where you don't even see shapes. Just the pure, empty absence of anything. I could hear breathing, not mine. Something brushed my shoulder. Then I felt heat on the side of my neck. Breath. Rotting breath. And something whispered into my ear. Too close. Too real. Too wet. You looked too long. When the lights blinked back on, I was standing outside the maze. Alone. Back in the dead grass. Only now. The fair was gone. Every trailer. Every light. Every sign of life. Vanished. Like it had never been there. I turned around. The mirror maze was still behind me. But the sign was different now. It read, "Welcome back." I got into my car. Drove until I ran out of gas. Slept in the back seat with a hammer in one hand and a dead phone in the other. When I eventually made it to a gas station, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, and my reflection blinked twice. I didn't. That's when I knew. It got out. One of them made it through. Later that day, Nullspeak messaged me again. This time it was a file. Mirrorlog 6xvb.json just code. Endless lines of it. I copied one of the strings into Google just to see. It led to a live leak archive. A banned one. Deep mirror site. It showed a man in a basement, tied to a chair, crying. Me, sobbing, pleading. The camera zooms in as something steps into frame. It's me again. But the face is all wrong. The mouth is too wide. The eyes don't move together. And the skin is stitched, literally stitched, along the jawline, as if someone wore my face and had to sew it back on after it fell loose. He leans in close and says, "You let me in. Now you watch. Forever." And the video loops. Over and over. No pause. No stop. No escape. There are screams that don't sound like pain. They sound like realization. I know that now. I heard my own voice do it. Not from my mouth, but from speakers. From audio files. From videos I never filmed. Playing on loops across deep web servers I can't delete. It's been 27 days since the mirror maze. 27 days since I watched something with my face crawl out of a wall of glass and take my place in the world like it had always been me. And since then, I've been watching. It started slow. Little changes. I'd go to a gas station, see myself on the security cam monitor, but I'd already left. At first I thought it was lag, but the footage would loop, showing me walking in over and over, the same steps, the same movements, like the system was glitching with my presence. Then came the screens. Every time I passed a reflection, TVs in stores, windows, phone screens, even water puddles, I'd catch glimpses of other versions of me. Not like in the mirror maze. These weren't memories. They were live. One of me was cooking something raw, on a slab, covered in hair. Another was dragging something heavy through a blood-slick hallway. And one was sitting in front of a camera, typing a story. This story. I saw myself writing this, smiling that empty smile that I never knew I could make. I realized then, I wasn't telling a story. I was transmitting a ritual. Every word typed, every paragraph shared, every person who reads this. You're not just a viewer, you're a mirror, and now you're part of it too. But before I explain that, you need to know how it ends, because I tried to end it. I did. I hunted down the source, followed the trail back through every Nullspeak folder, every corrupted archive, every Tor link and bleeding screenshot. It all led to one final address, 35 .416, 1 degrees north, 97.5, 129 degrees west, a warehouse on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. It used to be an old photo processing plant, back when people printed memories instead of letting them rot on phones. It had been shut down since 2006, after a chemical fire took out half the staff. No one ever reopened it. No one ever tore it down. It just sat there, rotting, like a wound the city never healed. When I got there, I knew right away it wasn't abandoned. There were footprints in the ash, fresh ones, some human, some not. Some had heel bones, but no toes. Others were backwards. One set looked like a child's, but each toe ended in a sharp point like a nail. The air smelled like melted plastic and bleach, like a dead printer choking on flesh. The inside was a labyrinth of rusted machines, half-melted film reels, and walls covered in photos. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Every photo was the same. A person sleeping, taken from a corner, time-stamped between 2:33 and 2:44 a.m. I recognized them, all of them. The victims from the cold cases, the missing persons from the Chicago forums. Some I'd never seen, but some I had met. A barista I used to talk to, a girl from my college dorm, my neighbor's kid. All of them frozen in sleep. All of them watched. And then I saw the last row of photos, the ones labeled in progress. I shouldn't have looked. I shouldn't have kept going. But curiosity isn't a feeling anymore. It's a disease in my head now. There were 6 pictures, all taken in different locations, but the person in every one was me. 6 copies, 1 in the cabin, 1 in the mirror maze, 1 in the car, 1 kneeling before the nameless building, 1 crying in a mall bathroom, and the last, one of me, standing in front of the warehouse, taken 10 minutes before I arrived. I turned around and felt it, the static, the pulse in the walls. The entire building was alive with observation, not with cameras, but with eyes, real ones, set into the drywall, crusted over, blinking. The door slammed behind me, the lights shut off, and then I heard it, the sound of film rolling, but it wasn't film, it was skin, peeled, dragged through reels, and then the voice, again, layered, thousand-tongued, dry and wet at once. You asked for the truth. You uploaded the request. You opened the gate. You paid in curiosity. A light flickered on. I was standing on a platform, surrounded by figures, dozens of them, all wearing my face. Some stitched, some burned, some rotten. One had nails in the eyes. One didn't blink, because its eyelids were peeled back and stapled to its forehead. They all began to speak at once, in my voice, but backwards. One single chant on loop. We see what you show. We become what you view. You are the seed. We are the bloom. Suddenly, a screen lowered from the ceiling. It showed you, the person reading this, right now, your IP address, your phone's location, your last Google search, the way your hands are trembling. Yes, you. Because the story isn't a warning, it's a virus. The more people read it, the more mirrors break. And the thing behind the glass, it doesn't need to stalk you anymore. You open the gate by watching. So I'm telling you, this not to save you, but to finish what I started. Because I didn't hire a hacker to look into murders. I hired him to find you. The next one. And when Nullspeak sent me the first photo of me sleeping, that wasn't my beginning. It was yours. You were already being watched. He's in your hallway now. You'll hear the click at 2:39 a.m. Then 4 knocks. Then silence. And when you check your camera, you'll see it. A photo of you, sleeping. And just like me, You'll wonder, when did he come in? The answer, he never left. I paid a hacker to break into a secret Vatican server. One file was titled Human Sacrifice in Exchange for Silence. So, this is one of those stories I never thought I'd share on Reddit. But after what happened last night, I kind of feel like I have to get this off my chest. To start off, I'm just a regular dude. I'm 24, live in Toronto, work from home doing freelance graphic design, and I basically spend most of my time on Reddit, Twitter, Discord, and binging weird horror channels on YouTube, like Mr. Ballen, Nexpo, and Here's My Story. I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories, creepypastas, and analog horror. But this, what I'm about to tell you, it actually happened to me. No creepypasta, no found footage vibe. This was real, and I'm still shaking writing this. Back in January, I went down a deep rabbit hole online. Like, deep. I had COVID and was stuck inside, bored out of my mind, and my YouTube algorithm started feeding me weird, low-view videos titled stuff like Files They Don't Want You to See, or Why the Vatican Deletes This Footage Every Month. You know the type. That slow, robotic narration with distorted old photos and grainy black and white video loops in the background. But there was one video that caught my attention more than the others. The thumbnail was this pixelated image of a guy in a red robe standing in front of what looked like a golden throne. It had this weird Latin title, Custodes Umbrae, translation, the Keepers of the Shadow. It only had like 132 views, which made it even creepier. I clicked. The video was only 4 minutes long. No music. Just a low male voice, whispering the words in Latin over old photos of the Vatican. One photo showed the inside of some archive room, like floor-to-ceiling filing cabinets and big, rusted safes. Another was a satellite view of Vatican City, but when it zoomed in, there was a blurry patch behind St. Peter's Basilica. The narrator said there was a Level D black server room hidden underneath the Vatican, where the church stored classified documents going back hundreds of years, some allegedly dated before the birth of Christ. It all sounded like the usual tin-foil hat stuff, until the last few seconds of the video. The screen glitched, and it cut to what looked like surveillance footage, like a real CCTV clip. Timestamp showed June 18th, 2018, 3:11 a.m. There was no sound, but the camera was pointed down a narrow hallway. The floor was marble. The walls were lined with torches. Yes, actual torches, not electric lights. And at the end of the hallway, something moved. Something tall, robed in red. No face, just blackness under the hood. The camera fuzzed out, and the screen went black. Then white text appeared. Silence is sanctuary. I won't lie. I slept with my light on that night. Now, here's where it gets messed up. A few days later, I found this guy in Discord. He was in a conspiracy-themed server I was lurking in, under the name Syncrypt. He claimed to be an ex-cybersecurity analyst who did freelance work for private collectors. His bio literally said, "I break into places that aren't on maps. I find things you'll wish you never saw." I DM'd him as a joke and asked, "Can you get into the Vatican servers?" He replied in like 10 seconds, "You got $500? I'll get you in for 10 minutes. At first, I thought it was a scam, but he showed me a screenshot of a server directory labeled varchivex with file names like Stigmata White Trial 1998.wmv, and Cruciform AI Project. It looked fake, but too good to be a Photoshop. So, yeah, I sold my Nintendo Switch and paid him through Monero. He didn't take PayPal, obviously. 2 days later, he sent me a Tor browser link, a temporary login, and a warning. You have 10 minutes. Do not open any file labeled Red Zone. Do not share anything you download. Do not go deeper than root level. When time's up, get out. I laughed. Like I wasn't going to start a Vatican apocalypse. I just wanted some cool screenshots to flex on r/conspiracy. I logged in around 3 a.m. The directory looked surprisingly normal at first. Just a black screen with a tree of folders like 001, Vatican Council Files, 002, Archive, Papal Death Reports, 003, Miracles, Unverified, 004, Red Zone, Do Not Access. You already know I clicked it. I mean, I'm not gonna not open the Do Not folder. I figured it'd be empty. Maybe a jump scare. Maybe bait. Inside were 12 files, all titled in weird ways. One was humansilence.tiff. Another was cleanseop.mp4. But the one that froze me was a Word doc titled Human Sacrifice in Exchange for Silence, Witness Testimony.pdf. I opened it, and it wasn't just a text file. It was scanned pages, real handwritten notes on Vatican letterhead. I only got to read like 3 sentences before my screen started glitching like crazy. But I still remember what they said. The child was taken from the orphanage under Cardinal M approval. The ritual began at 3:13 a.m. The silence was absolute. The body was burned within 5 minutes, and no trace remained. Then the document just went blank, like completely white. I was about to back out, but the screen flashed, and suddenly I wasn't in the server anymore. I was on my own desktop, except my wallpaper had changed. It was a photo of the inside of my apartment, taken from the hallway. My bedroom door was open, and I was sitting at my desk from behind. There was no way someone could have taken that photo. I live alone. My phone started vibrating like crazy. Notifications from Twitter, Discord, Reddit. Dozens of messages, all from new accounts. Each one just said, "Silence is sanctuary." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, weird things have been happening. I got a random Uber Eats order from a McDonald's in Rome. I haven't ordered anything. Someone signed into my YouTube account and subscribed me to channels that don't exist anymore. My lights flicker at exactly 3:13 a.m. every night. And yesterday, someone sent me a printed copy of that same document in the mail. No return address. My cat refuses to go near my office now. She just stares at the hallway, like something's standing there. I know I sound crazy. Maybe I am. But I swear to you, something is watching me now. Something I never should have seen. I tried reaching back out to Syncrypt, but his account's gone. Deleted. Like he never existed. Part of me wants to burn the document, toss my laptop into Lake Ontario, and run. But the other part, the dumb, curious part of me, I want to know what else is in that server. I didn't sleep for 2 days after I opened that file. There's something about reading a thing like that. Black ink scrawled on old paper, shaky handwriting describing how a child was taken, burned, erased. That feels more real than watching a horror movie or reading a creepypasta. Like the words were sick, like they carried a virus just by being read. I couldn't eat, couldn't look at my screens without flinching. Every time my phone vibrated, my stomach dropped. I turned off my Wi-Fi, unplugged everything, even taped over my webcam. But I was too late. Because here's the part I didn't mention in part 1, and maybe the most important detail. I downloaded something by accident. It wasn't that PDF. It was another file. One I didn't even remember clicking. It was sitting on my desktop the next morning. A small 9-second video titled DSC-313.move. That name still haunts me. 313. The time of the ritual. The time my lights flicker every night. The time I now wake up without fail, sweating through my clothes, with the feeling that someone is standing at the foot of my bed, watching me, not moving, not breathing, just there. The file had no icon, just a blank thumbnail. When I clicked it, my whole screen went black, like my laptop had crashed. Then it flickered, and the video began. It was handheld footage, shaky, grainy. The resolution was awful, but I could still make out shapes. And those sounds. Jesus. The video starts in what looks like an underground tunnel. Dim lighting, wet concrete walls. The camera pans to the left, and you see 2 men in white robes with red trim. They're dragging someone, a woman, by her arms. She's not struggling. She looks sedated, limp. They take her through a rusted metal door. Beyond it, the room is pitch black, except for a circle of candles on the floor. And then the camera zooms in. There's a symbol burned into the concrete in the middle of the room. Not painted, burned, like someone torched it in with a blowtorch. It looks like a cross, but the arms are broken and twisted at impossible angles, like it was torn apart and put back together wrong. Then there's a sound, not from the camera. It was like something behind me. A low clicking sound, like teeth clacking together, slow and deliberate. I paused the video, and I swear on everything, when I paused it, the image stayed on the screen, like burned in. I clicked away. Nothing. Opened a new tab. Still there. That broken cross. The woman in the center. The 2 men standing over her with something sharp in their hands. I forced shut my laptop, and when I opened it back up, my desktop background had changed again. This time, it was a Google Street View image of a Starbucks, but not just any Starbucks. This one was in Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy. Tiny mountain town. Never been there, never searched for it, never Googled anything even close to it. But somehow, there it was. And something about the photo made my blood run cold. The windows of the Starbucks were boarded up. No sign, no open hours. Just a single wooden door with a red cloth draped over the top, like a makeshift curtain. Someone had written on the door in chalk, "In silentio, nihil revertitur." In silence, nothing returns. I tried to delete the photo. Right-clicked, hit delete. Nothing happened. Tried renaming the file. It renamed itself back. Tried restarting in safe mode. The file was still there. I opened it again, just to see if I was imagining things. And this time, there was a person standing in front of the door. No face, no clothes, just a black shape, like the silhouette of a man made of smoke. No features, but he was staring directly into the camera. That was the last straw. I packed my bags and left my apartment. Booked an Airbnb 3 cities over. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't use my credit card. Took a burner phone and left my laptop behind. But it didn't matter, because they followed me anyway. The first night at the Airbnb, I noticed the smoke alarm was unscrewed. It had been replaced. Not removed, replaced. Same model, but it was cleaner, newer, and wired in with different screws than the others in the house. I climbed up and opened it. Inside, Not a battery, not a circuit board, a small lens. It was a camera. I threw it out the window, but I knew there were more. Maybe in the vents, maybe in the mirror, maybe in my phone. I turned the burner off, smashed it on the bathroom floor, and flushed the SIM card. Still, at 3:13 a.m., the lights flickered. Every single room, for exactly 5 seconds. Then came the smell. Burning, like hot metal, rotting meat, and incense all mixed together. I got up, heart pounding, looked outside, and there it was. A black van, no plates, no logos, just parked there in the driveway, headlights off, engine idling. I stood there, frozen, staring out the window. Then it honked once. Not a normal honk. It was long, slow, and warped, like it was being played through a blown-out speaker from another dimension. Then it drove away. That morning, I got a delivery. A single brown envelope, no return address, sealed with red wax. Inside was a printed screenshot of the video I'd watched. The woman in the circle, the robed figures. But this time, there was something new in the image. Behind the woman, barely visible in the shadows, was a third figure, a tall, emaciated shape with arms too long for its body, fingers like blades, and a face stretched in a permanent scream. It wasn't human. It looked like something carved out of bone and grief. Under the photo, typed in courier font, was a note. She screamed until her vocal cords split. You will too. I tried contacting Syncrypt again, just once. Not on Discord, his account was gone, but on an old forum where he once posted something about zero-level Vatican anomalies. I left a message. They're watching me. What do I do? 10 minutes later, I got a reply, but not from him, from someone else. You opened the file. You invited them. The only way out is the Cortina Starbucks, basement level, but you won't like what you find. Then the thread disappeared. Vanished. Whole sub-forum gone. The site itself redirected to a Russian gardening blog. Now I was really losing it. But I couldn't stop thinking about that Starbucks, the boarded-up building, the man with no face, the Latin writing. I had one choice. I booked a one-way ticket to Italy. What I saw in that basement still haunts me. There are places on this earth that aren't meant to be found. Rooms under churches that never appear on blueprints. Doors behind coffee counters that lead to ritual chambers. Flesh turned into data. Screams stored as sound files. People made to vanish in exchange for silence. I saw them, and they saw me. Next, the Starbucks basement wasn't just a room. It was a map, and it led somewhere that shouldn't exist. I landed in Italy on a Tuesday. Cortina d'Ampezzo was colder than I expected. Like bone cold, not just weather cold. The kind of cold that gets behind your eyes. The sky looked faded, like an old photograph left in the sun too long. The mountains were beautiful, but something about them felt off, like they were watching. I didn't speak Italian, didn't tell anyone I was coming. Took a cab up into the town using Apple Maps, but that Starbucks, the one I saw in the Street View image, it didn't show up. It was gone from the app, but I knew where to go, because the image was still burned into my head. I remembered every window, every crack in the bricks, even the way the boards were nailed and crooked. I walked on foot, following nothing but a sense of dread like a rope around my neck. And after 2 hours of wandering through side streets and alleyways, I found it, tucked between two souvenir shops, down a path that felt too narrow. The air got heavier with every step, and then, there it was, the boarded-up Starbucks, exactly like the image. Same red cloth, same chalk, writing on the door. Only this time, the door was open. Just slightly. Just enough. Inside, the shop looked like it hadn't served coffee in decades. Dust covered the floor like snowfall. The machines were unplugged. The glass counters were cracked. But something, had been inside recently. A half-full cup of espresso sat on the counter, still warm, and the smell. Oh God, that smell. It wasn't coffee. It was like scorched meat mixed with copper. The smell of open wounds and electrical fires. My brain kept telling me to leave. Every bone in my body screamed that I was walking into a trap, but I didn't come this far to turn back. Behind the counter was a narrow metal door with a faded sign on it that read, "Stockroom." I pushed it open, half expecting a bunch of shelves and expired snacks. Instead, I found stairs, spiraling, endless concrete stairs going down, and the further I went, the less it felt like a basement. It didn't even feel like a building. It felt like I was descending into the spine of the earth. The walls dripped with black moisture. There were deep gouges in the stone, like claw marks, old ones, human height, no lights, but the steps glowed faintly, like there were embers pressed into the concrete. I touched one with my finger, and it burned like flesh. Not heat, pain. A cold, intelligent pain, like something looking back through the stairs. At the bottom was a massive metal door. No lock, no handle, just a palm print scanner mounted on the wall. And get this, when I touched it, it opened. No ID, no authorization, just my hand, like it had been waiting for me. Inside was not a basement. It was a room the size of a warehouse, but the walls weren't made of concrete. They were made of screens, hundreds of monitors, CRT TVs, old iPads, broken iPhones, all stitched together like some Frankenstein surveillance system. Each screen showed something different. Most had no sound. One showed a hospital room where a priest stood over a boy strapped to a table, whispering in Latin as the boy convulsed. Another showed a chapel with red-robed figures dragging a screaming woman into a pit. Another showed the Pope. Yes, the Pope, standing silently in front of a mirror, while a second reflection stood behind him, unmoving. And in the center of the room was a table. Not a normal table. It was made entirely of human teeth, cemented together, polished smooth. On top sat a black leather binder, sealed shut with barbed wire, and beneath it, a map, drawn in blood on stretched human skin. I didn't want to touch it, but something made me. My hand moved on its own. I peeled the map open and saw locations marked all across the world. Cities, towns, even rural farmland. Each spot had a date. Some were historical, 1945, 1986, 2001. Others were future, like June 6th, 2026, or November 3rd, 2033. Next to each was a name. I recognized a few. Fukushima, ritual, tsunami offering, status, completed. New Orleans, ritual, mass baptism, status, compromised. Nova Scotia, ritual, black womb creation, status, pending. I nearly threw up, but then I saw one labeled Toronto, human silence, ritual, status, opened. That was my city, my apartment. I was part of this. I triggered something. I was the ritual. That's when I noticed something else. A soft breathing sound. Not from me. From behind. I turned around, slowly. And there, hanging from the ceiling, were dozens of people. Not corpses. Not quite. They were alive. Mouths sewn shut. Eyelids ripped off. Metal rods driven into their limbs like crucifixions. Their skin was carved with words in Latin, the same phrase over and over. Silence is sanctuary. Silence is sanctuary. Some of them were twitching, others just swayed, gently, like meat puppets in a windless room. But one made eye contact with me, and he smiled. I ran, back up the stairs, through the ruined shop, into the daylight. But when I got outside, everything was wrong. The town was empty, no cars, no people, just absence, like reality had turned off. And then I looked at the sky. The clouds were moving in reverse, and the sun had a ring around it, like an eclipse, but inside out. And the sound in the air, it wasn't wind, it was chanting, low, backwards, like voices praying in reverse. I turned around. The Starbucks was gone, just a blank brick wall where it had been. No doorway, no boards, just solid stone, as if it had never existed. I was stuck in a town that didn't exist anymore, holding a map made of skin, with teeth on my hands from touching that table, and something in my head whispered, "You've seen it now. You've seen too much. It's been 48 hours. I don't know how I got back. 1 second, I was screaming in the street, and the next, I was on a train in Germany, blood on my sleeves, a ticket in my pocket I never bought. My phone was in my lap, unlocked. A message was open from a contact I never added. The name was just a black square emoji. It said, "There are 3 more levels. You only saw the first. The next is where they grow them. You have until 3:13 a.m. After that, your mouth won't be yours anymore." I tried to speak. My jaw locked, like something inside me was pushing back. I think something followed me out of that basement. It's not in my apartment anymore. It's in me. Next, level 2 is where they grow the mouthless, and they've already started building one in my city. You think this story is crazy now? Wait until you find out what's under the parking lot behind that McDonald's you always go to. You're not ready. None of us are. It's 3:12 a.m. right now. I've locked every door in this apartment, covered the mirrors, unplugged everything that gives off a reflection. Because if I see them again, even for a second, I know I'll lose control of my own body. They've been trying to crawl their way in since I left that place. But what I found, what I know now, that's what truly broke me. The day after I got off that train in Germany, I found something in my jacket pocket. I didn't put it there. It was a paper receipt, crumpled, with red stains across the edge. Not ink. Dried blood. The kind that flakes when you touch it. On the back, scribbled in shaky handwriting, McDonald's, Keela and St. Clair, parking lot, underneath the yellow M. I stared at that for hours. It made no sense. Keela and St. Clair, that's back home, Toronto, a completely normal McDonald's location. I've been there 100 times. Used to get their fries at 2 a.m. during college. But something about this. I flew back that night. Red-eye flight. No sleep. Sat next to a guy who stared out the window the whole time, whispering to himself in Latin and twitching every time the plane hit turbulence. I swear to you, I watched him bleed from his eyes at 3:13 a.m. He didn't make a sound. Not one. When I landed, I checked Google. That McDonald's, still there, still open, still rated 3.7 stars. I drove there in silence, parked across the street, watched, and nothing happened for hours, until around 3 a.m. when the lights inside flickered. Not like a power outage. They flickered in a pattern, a code, almost like Morse, but not, like a heartbeat. 2 fast, 1 slow, again and again, like it was breathing. I went in. The workers were silent. No music, no fry sounds, just the quiet buzz of lights. I walked up to the counter. The cashier looked at me, wide-eyed, and whispered, "You're not supposed to be here. They know you crossed over." I asked him what he meant. He leaned in and whispered something that still rings in my ears. The mouthless are born beneath. They don't need eyes. They listen through your bones. He blinked once, twice, and then his nose started bleeding. His lips peeled back like someone was pulling invisible threads inside his mouth. I ran. Behind the McDonald's, beneath the giant yellow M, was a storm drain. I'd never noticed it before, and I've lived here for years, but the gate was open, just a little, just enough. I crawled inside. I expected rats, trash, water. What I found was a tunnel. Dry, clean, too clean. The walls weren't concrete. They were metal, polished, brushed steel, like a corridor inside a lab, except it was humming. And under my feet, there were faces, pressed beneath a layer of transparent floor, like human bodies embedded in the walkway, frozen mid-scream, mouths wide open, or where mouths should have been. Some were smooth from chin to nose. Others had their mouths sewn inward, like their flesh had tried to hide the scream inside itself. I kept walking, down the corridor, deeper. The hum got louder, a low-frequency sound, like a machine learning how to speak. And then, the corridor opened into a room, if you could even call it that. It was a birthing chamber. Rows of metal tables, strapped down bodies, tubes in every orifice, machines pumping thick, black fluid through their veins. But these weren't people. Not anymore. They had no mouths, no eyes, just smooth, pulsating skin where faces should be. And they were moving, writhing, as if something inside them was trying to claw its way out. Each one had a name tag pinned into its chest, not taped, stapled. I leaned over the closest one. The name, Marcello G. The date, July 7th, 2012. Status, silenced. I stared, and then it blinked. Not with eyes. Its chest blinked, like something inside had just opened and looked at me from within itself. I backed away, heart in my throat. Suddenly, an alarm went off. A siren, but not loud. Low. Bone vibrating. Like the building itself was warning the others. A light above me turned red, and from the end of the hallway, they started walking in. The mouthless. Real ones. Not being grown. These ones were finished. 7 feet tall. Pale, stretched skin. No face. Just a wide, sunken pit in their heads. Like someone tried to dig a hole where their identity should be. Their arms dragged along the ground, and their bodies jerked like broken puppets. They didn't run. They listened. Every step I took, they twitched toward me, like sonar. One of them stopped walking and turned its head slowly, then opened a slit in its chest. Not a mouth. And I heard a voice I recognized come out of it. My mother's voice. Darkness. Not normal darkness. Noise darkness. It hummed, like a whisper shouted into your bones. My ears started bleeding. I felt something slide under my fingernails, like thoughts that didn't belong to me. I knew, deep in my marrow, that I had reached the final level. And then I heard a voice, not with my ears, with my teeth. It vibrated through my molars, each word like a chisel carving its way into my skull. You have walked through knowledge you were not born to bear. You have tasted silence. Now choose. I turned, and behind me, a door had opened. Inside, a room with 2 chairs, one empty. The other held a woman. Except it wasn't just a woman. It was every woman I'd ever loved. My mother, my sister, an ex-girlfriend, a girl I saw once on a subway. who smiled at me when I was 17. They merged, fused, a face shifting constantly, like wet clay under heat, eyes wrong, mouth sealed, but her body shook with muffled screams. And beside her chair, on a small metal tray, was a surgical tool I recognized from the PDF, a mouth remover, a device shaped like pliers crossed with a spoon. Its design made for exactly one purpose: to scoop, crush, and erase the human mouth from the skull. On the wall above us, etched into the stone with claw marks, 2, leave, only 1 silent. That was the choice. Either I remove her mouth, sacrifice her for silence, erase her ability to scream, or I take her place, become one of the mouthless, a watcher, a walker, a witness to the end of sound. I didn't want to choose, but the thing is, the door behind me had closed, and the walls were breathing, and the other mouthless were pressing their heads against the walls from the outside, whispering to be let in. I picked up the tool, and I did something I can't write down. I can't even think it without hearing her scream inside my throat. Because when I used the tool, I realized something. She wasn't there to be sacrificed. She was there to see if I was willing. That was the ritual. The removal wasn't physical. It was consent. By accepting the terms, I'd already chosen to be silenced. The moment I touched the tool, my fate was sealed. I woke up the next day, in my apartment, everything exactly where I left it. Lights working, no blood, no whispers. Number 3:13 a.m. flickers. For a moment, I thought it was over, until I checked my mirror, and I saw a crack in my reflection, not on the glass. Inside me, my mouth smiled without me telling it to, and my voice said a phrase I didn't choose. Silence is sanctuary. Since then, I've seen them everywhere, at the train station, at schoolyards, at nightclubs, on Zoom calls, in TikTok, live feeds that glitch when you scroll past too fast, people who don't blink, people whose faces shimmer for a second too long, people who listen harder than they speak. They're growing in numbers, quietly, patiently, and the worst part? They don't need to kill you. They just need you to read, to watch, to listen, because silence spreads like mold. And now you're infected. You finished the story, but the story didn't finish you. You heard it. You saw it. You're part of it now. So when they come to your door at 3:13 a.m., when the lights flicker and the knock sounds like your own heartbeat, remember, you chose this. You read it all the way to the end, and that means they're allowed to touch you now. Good luck. Don't scream. They hate when you scream.